But another beautiful steal perpetrated by Todd White. The action continues. The let's go situation here. Alexei Deacon going up against another team. Jeffrey Moore has perfect access to the bucket. What we saw from that normal replay of that last bit of action was Juan Fernandez actually wanting to dish up the aggressive pass to Jaworski. We're crossing the twilight zone. That's an eternity of basketball ahead of us.
Good morning, everyone. This is an Eternity of Basketball. Before we begin episode 105, we remind everyone that the Eternity of Basketball is part of the Globally Ballin Network. Another show on the network is Hang Time with Denise Dinsay. Episode 41 with Isay Marasigan is already online, so you can watch that episode of Hang Time with Denise Dinsay. Go to the Globally Ballin Network at globallyballin.com. Check out all the social media and the original articles, audio and video projects, and the shows, of course, including an Eternity of Basketball. And the shows, aside from us, we have Hang Time, Who the Heck Are We, and the Globally Ballin podcast. Listen to them on Spotify anytime and anywhere on the go. And of course, you have to subscribe to the Globally Ballin YouTube channel and on Spotify as well for all the past episodes of An Eternity of Basketball. Please follow that. Most popular episodes of our show thus far: Bernie Fabiosa, Abby King, Francis Arnaiz, Atoy Ko, and Philip Cesar. That's 1 to 5. So please watch all of that. And the link that you need, Linktree/GloballyBallin for easy access to all of that. And we like to thank Cuts Apparel, customized company uniforms. You'll see Sid Ventura wearing his Cuts Apparel shirt right there. So I'm Charlie Cuna together with Noel, Zarate, and Sid Ventura. And this is an Eternity of Basketball episode 105. And what a privilege it is for us today to have someone who doesn't really need much introduction already. I mean, the 3-time NBA champion, 14-year NBA veteran. Let's bring him in already. Let's get it started. Coach Byron Scott, welcome to the show, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure to be here.
Right, yeah. So here I am. I'm wearing my Lakers shirt because, I'm a Lakers guy. I've got the two Celtic guys with me, Sid and Noel. But, it's all good. We're going to tell stories about basketball here, Coach. So we'll talk about your career, and then let's get started. Your bio says you were born in Ogden, Utah, but I heard and we've read in the past that you didn't. That you grew up not far from the fabulous Forum, that could seat 17,505 back in the 80s, and you were watching the Lakers when you were a youngster about to learn basketball. How did you learn basketball? I mean, how did you gravitate towards the sport, and why did you choose it as your sport?
You know what? I think basketball was just instilled in me at a very early age. My dad played college basketball, never got an opportunity to play professional basketball, got in a car accident going into his senior year at the University of Utah. So he didn't get a chance to fulfill his dream. I can remember even at 7, 8 years old being in my backyard. We couldn't afford a basketball hoop and we didn't have much space, so I took a trash can and filled it with leaves and grass and just was shooting that. And that was my hoop. After homework, I would go outside and I would stay out there until my mom or dad called me in. And I just had a love for the game of basketball. But growing up in Inglewood, I played every sport, but basketball was the one that I was able to really excel at, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And it was a game that was always fast paced, so it kept my interest. Baseball I played at a high level, but if the ball wasn't hit to me or I wasn't pitching, I was bored. So basketball was the one thing that I felt that I could just do on a regular basis and get better and better each year. And obviously I got a chance to play high school. I was a high school All-American, didn't go to Arizona State, was All-American at Arizona State, and got drafted by the Clippers, traded to the Lakers, which was a dream come true.
That's right. But is it true that you used to sneak into the forum to watch some
I was
Laker
about to
games
say.
when you were younger?
Yeah. Going into my senior year in high school, me and a couple of buddies always wanted to see the Lakers play, so we figured out a way to run down the tunnel and just run past the old security guard guy that was there. He had to be about 70 years old, so we knew once we got past him, it was going to be hard for him to catch us. And if we got into the forum, we would just walk around and look for a seat. So we did that about 4 times when I was in high school, and I got a chance to watch Jerry West and Will Chamberlain and those guys. I got a chance to watch Bob McAdoo when he was playing for the Buffalo Braves, which ended up being the San Diego Clippers, which ended up being the Los Angeles Clippers. So I got a chance to see some of my favorite players, in high school. And I always went to those games, and I said to myself when I would find a seat that one of these days I'm going to be out there. And, that was my motivation, being able to sneak into the forum a few times and then watch these great players play.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sid,
Were you able
you
to sneak in during the championship of 1972 when the Lakers finally won it all?
No, when they were sneaking in, they tightened up security, so I couldn't get past them. Then they had the old guard there, but they had the young guards at the door where you had to get into. So it was like, oh man, I tried it one time, and when I got caught, I was like, all right, that's it. I'm not gonna try to sneak in again. But yeah, I really love that. Been to the championship when they finally, like you said, got over the hump and won the championship.
Mm-hmm. Noel.
Coach, you said you were a multi-sport guy. You played baseball at a high level and finally chose basketball. At what point in your life, how old were you when you considered basketball as your sport and thought that, I could be an NBA player?
Noel, I'll tell this story a lot. When I was 12 years old, I told my mom I was going to play in the NBA. I was 12 years old. And my mom, being a mom, she was very supportive. She said, my baby's going to be in the NBA. He's going to play in the league. And my dad was like, what if you don't make it to the NBA? I said, well, I'm going to play in the Major League Baseball. So I knew that, one of those two were going to be mine. But I knew when I got to high school that basketball was my ticket. I just excelled. I went from in the ninth grade from 5'10" to when I was a sophomore in high school to 6'2", and then grew a couple of more inches after that. So I knew basketball was the sport for me.
Coach, when you were at Morningside playing high school basketball, as you mentioned, there's a story I heard from someone just recently when they found out that you were going to be our guest, that a PBA team at the time sent someone and he watched you at Morningside, and they actually wanted to get you as a PBA import back in 1979 or 1980. So you were still in high school, playing high school ball. Were you aware of that, that was going to happen? The team was Tanduay, and it's because of a coach who was coaching here in the Philippines named Ron Jacobs, who was close to Coach Jim Herrick at the time. And so they wanted to get you to play in the PBA. So do you know that story? What happened over there?
No, I didn't know that story. I never heard about that. Jim Herrick, who's a good friend of mine, who recruited me to go to UCLA as well when I was at Morningside High School, never told me that. And I'm surprised because I played golf with Jim on occasions every now and then and see him at charity events and things of that nature. Jim Herrick was a great man, very fond of Jim still to this day, but he never told me that story that they were looking at me to come over and play PBA in the Philippines.
Oh, okay, well, that's a crazy story because when I heard it the other day, I said, "Wow, that's amazing." Imagine you could have come to the Philippines when you were just in high school, and then I guess that's how high the level of your talent was. But okay, so you had a great career at Morningside, which is in Inglewood, and you got to see the Lakers, and eventually you go to Arizona State, coach, and you play for Nedwook with a bunch of guys, who would eventually be in the NBA as well. How was that experience? How did you end up at Arizona State?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to go too far from home, and I really didn't want to go to USC or UCLA. My dreams of going to UCLA was shattered when John Wooden retired. And he retired my junior year. If John Wooden would have been there going into my senior year in high school, I'd have went to UCLA. I was so fond of John Wooden and all he had accomplished at UCLA. So my dream was to go to UCLA. So when he ended up retiring, the doors were wide open. I pretty much said to myself, well, now I'm going to take a look at other universities. Arizona State was close enough to home where I can get home on the weekends every now and then. And my mom and dad could come see me play as well. And they had a great nucleus of players at the time. They had Lafayette, Fat Lever, who played in the NBA. Alton Lister, who you guys know real well, who was our center, who played in the NBA for 14, 15 years. We had a guy named Sam Williams, who was from Westchester High School here in California. So I knew of Sam. And Johnny Nash, who was at Long Beach, who was the #1 high school player in the country when he signed at Arizona State. And then he had this horrific injury, a compound fracture of his leg. So he was never able to be the same Johnny Nash that I saw in high school. But he still was able to play pretty well and get drafted. He got cut with Chicago. But we had such a good group of guys. I knew if I went to Arizona State, we had 2 years that we could have a chance of being very successful with those guys. And it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed playing with those guys. And going to Arizona State to this very day, I never regret that decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you get other offers from other big time D1 schools?
I did. I was getting offers from everybody in the country for a while until I told everybody that I'm staying on the West Coast. I'm not going back to the East. It's too cold. So, Notre Dame and Syracuse and schools like that stopped recruiting me. And I narrowed it down to just West Coast schools. So my final 3 choices were UCLA, UNLV with the Shark, Jerry Tarkanian, who was, had the running Rebels who were playing a full-style basketball game of offense. So I thought that was interesting. In Arizona State, and then eventually I chose Arizona State.
All right. And in your career in Arizona State, there was a lot of success. You placed high in the Pac-10 a couple of years. Was there a year that you sat out? Because I was looking at your bio, and it goes 79, and then there was a 1 year you sat out. What's the reason for that, Coach?
I sat out, Charlie, to be honest with you, because I got academically ineligible. I was messing around and just thinking I was the star of the basketball team, and that every teacher was going to pass me. And I had one teacher who I thank to this very day that said, "No, you're not coming to class. I can't pass you." And I had to go to summer school. And I went to summer school here in LA instead of going back to Arizona State, and messed around here because I was home and I was partying and having a good time in the summer. And when I got back to school, they said, "You're academically ineligible for the first semester of the season," which would have took me till December. So I would end up missing probably about 10 games or so, 10 to 14 games. And I came home because I said to myself, if they're not going to let me play, I'm going to just go ahead and go in the draft. And I came home, and this was a great story. I came home, and my mom was so happy to see me. I came home for the weekend, and I told my mom, the next day I said, "Mom, I think I'm going to just stay here. I'm going to drop out of school and wait for the draft." And my mom looked at me and she said, "So where are you going to stay?" I said, "Well, I'm going to stay here at home, with you." She said, "No, you're not staying here. You're not going to quit. No son of mine is going to quit. So what you're going to do is take your butt back to school. You're going to go to your classes. You're going to apologize to your teachers, and you're going to learn." And that was a great lesson for me, never quitting, number one. And I went back to school. I was eligible for the second semester, and I decided to just focus on my school. And, Coach Wilk wasn't too happy about that. I wanted to sit out the whole year and focus on my grades and get my grades in order so I have a chance to graduate. And so I ended up sitting out that whole year, which was going to be my junior year. So when I came back the next year was my junior year eligibility while my senior year in school.
That's right. And then, mother knows best, right? So you had to focus on
that. Tough love, that tough love that I had to endure at that particular time.
Yeah, but you had a spectacular your third year. When you came back after that, after sitting out one season, spectacular
Yeah.
year. Your statistics were way up there. What were the scouts telling you? What were the NBA scouts telling you? Which team wanted to get you? I mean, eventually San Diego picked you, but who were the teams who worked you out and said, "Hey, we're gonna pick you if you're available"?
Well, you know what? They didn't have workouts then. You didn't work out for teams like they do now. I just had teams that would come and they would watch me, play against my other teammates because the season was over. So we would just play just to stay in shape. And I had teams that would come and play. And the one day that I decided not to play, Bob Weinhauer was the coach of our team at that time. And he said, "No, I think you should play today." And I said, "Coach, I've been playing every day since the season's been over." I said, "I just need a chance to rest." I was averaging 36, 37 minutes a game. A college game is only 40. So I was almost playing every minute of the game. And he said, you need to play today." I said, "No, I think I'm arrested." He said, "No, I think you should play." And I finally asked him, I said, "Coach, what's going on? What's up?" He said, "Well, there's some guys here to see you that you need to play so they can see you." And lo and behold, I go out on the court to play, and Jerry West shows up in the stands along with Rudy Russo, who was one of the Lakers scouts at the time, and Bill Sherman. They were all sitting in the stands watching me play. And on that particular day, which was great, Dennis Johnson, the late great Dennis Johnson, who played for the Phoenix Suns, he decided he was coming to play with us that day. So I was matched up against DJ the whole day. And I had watched DJ. I went to Phoenix Suns games. He's an LA guy, so I got a chance to watch him play, for the Suns. So I studied him, and I did really well against him that day. And Jerry West and those guys, they got up and left before the last game. That we played like 5 or 6 games, and they got up and left. And Dennis Johnson in the locker room, we were all showering, getting ready, and he asked me the question, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know yet. I don't know if I'm going to go pro or at least play one more year of college basketball." And DJ looked at me and he said, "Well, you're definitely ready for the NBA." And that kind of helped me, make up my mind to go pro that year. And they were still all telling me that I was going to be a top 5 pick. So I ended up going pro that year.
That's right, guys.
Was there a chance that DJ said, "I'm going to the Celtics, join me there"?
No, there was no chance of that. I thought DJ was going to be with the Phoenix Suns for a few more years, but I got to give Boston credit. As you guys know, James Toney was the Boston Strangler back in the day. For Philadelphia, he was killing Boston. And we got Andrew Toney. That's right. I'm sorry, Andrew Toney was just a monster at that 2 position. And then when they got DJ, Andrew Toney was getting shut down. DJ's defense was unbelievable, and that enabled the Celtics to be able to get past Philadelphia. So I was happy to see DJ go to Boston and win the championship, and then obviously I was happy, to get drafted and be in the NBA.
And all Boston had to give up was Rick Roby, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe why Phoenix. Yeah, either Red was a genius or Phoenix was just plain stupid. It was one of the two, or a little bit of both, or a little bit of both. Because DJ was an all-star. I mean, he was a great player, and Phoenix at that time had a heck of a backcourt. They had a heck of a team. They had Alvin Adams. They had DJ and Walter, the Greyhound. Davis in the backcourt. I mean, they had a real good backcourt. So I was a little surprised at that trade, but obviously Red had something up his sleeve, and he was able to pull off a great trade for the Celtics.
As always,
right.
as always. Yeah, no, Coach Byron. Yeah, I just gotta ask you. Even though I'm a Celtics fan, I also read books about the Lakers. So I read Magic Johnson's autobiography, My Life, back in '92, and there was a chapter there. He said that when you first joined the Lakers, they didn't like you because the Lakers had to trade Norm Nixon, whom everybody liked, for you.
Right.
So, yeah, they were really upset that Norm had to leave, and they kind of took it out on you. Is that accurate?
That's real accurate. My first week of practice, those guys, Magic Johnson and Michael Cooper, were throwing elbows and pushing and shoving and hitting me with cheap shots. And it took me about a week. The good thing about being home in LA is I would go home after practice, and all my buddies that I grew up with would be around. And they would always ask me, how's practice going? I was like, man, these dudes, they elbowing me and they doing all this stuff. And my boys was like, man, you got to knock one of their asses out. That's all you got to do. And I said, nah, I can't do that. I understand why they mad. But, it came a time after about a week or so where me and Coop kind of squared off. And I said, the next elbow one of y'all throw, it's going to be on. I said, I'm done with this, And that's when they told me that I earned my stripes, that they wanted to see if I was tough enough. And, they said I passed all the tests with flying colors. So it was just a test to see if I could be one of the guys. And Magic told me later on that I had passed. And then after that, they accepted me with open arms. And it was the Three Musketeers, me, Coop, and Magic. We hung out, everywhere and did everything together for the next, 8 or 9 years.
Uh-huh.
Who was the first guy who sort of took you under your wing when you were in the Lakers?
No, nobody really. I mean, well, no, I'll take that back. As we went on, Magic started to take me under his wing, him and Coop. They started to show me the ropes. They started talking to me about the game. They started talking to me about little things, little tricks of the trade that you can do. And both of those guys were instrumental in me becoming, the player that I ended up being. They were both very positive. They were always encouraging me. I learned a lot on the defensive end from Cooper, who's to me still one of the greatest defensive players I've ever seen. Learned a lot from Magic. Obviously, is just learning how to be a professional and come out and be ready every single game. So both of those guys kind of took me under their wing and taught me a lot about the game of basketball.
Was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar already? I'm sorry, Charlie. I just
go ahead, Noel.
Yeah, was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at the time? As in, he was the what you call the mentor to everybody. And then, how great was Kareem when you were there?
You know what? Kareem, when I got there, was 36 years old. Everybody said he was pretty much done, which he wasn't. Obviously, the Celtics contested that. At 37, he's still the oldest player ever to win an MVP. And after that Memorial Day massacre, I think he averaged something like 37 points, 17 rebounds. So, obviously he still had a lot left in the tank. But Kareem was more of a quiet guy. And it's funny because I sit next to him for 6 years. In the first year or so, he really didn't talk to me a whole lot. It was just kind of like, how you doing, Rook? Get me some water, Rook. Go do this, Rook. But after that, we formed an unbelievable relationship, an unbelievable friendship. Even to this day, I talk to Cap a lot. I talk to Coop a lot. I talk to Magic. I talk to James. I mean, we still are a very close-knit bunch of guys. AC Green is the godfather of my daughter. We are very still close as a team. But Kareem was one of those guys that, he could have played 2 or 3 more years if he really wanted to, because he was such, number one, in such phenomenal shape because of his martial arts and the yoga that he was doing. I never heard of yoga until I saw Kareem doing it, for all those years. But it kept him limber and it kept him in great shape, and he was able to just shoot that sky hook against anybody. And to me, to this day, I still say, and I have no disrespect for Michael Jordan because I love MJ. He was unbelievable. But Kareem, to me, is the greatest player that ever played the game.
Oh,
Charlie, I don't get any arguments here either.
Yeah.
On behalf of Boston, we apologize for the Memorial Day massacre.
That's all right. All you guys did was wake us up. You just woke us up. We'd
like to thank you. Coach, we'd like to thank them for doing that. And then,
they ended up winning the series.
We regret that. We regret that. We apologize.
No, but I want to pick your brain. Yeah, Coach, I wanted to just see your mindset. You come in, you get drafted by the Clippers. You're traded to the Lakers for one of the favorite guys, Norm Nixon, and it's a championship team with a bunch of future Hall of Famers on it. And you're a confident guy. We know that. But when you enter there, you're the youngest guy. They call you Baby B, and they're hitting you in practice and all of that. What's in your mind when you go home at night? You're lying in your bed and you're thinking, what have I gotten myself into? Was there a lot of pressure to produce immediately?
Not really. I didn't think so. I think Jerry West. It was a lot of pressure on him because he made the deal. But the thing that made me feel so much better is that when Jerry West called me into his office and he told me about all the flack he was getting about making this deal, and everybody was telling him that he was crazy, he was starting to lose his touch. Everybody said he was a genius as far as draft picks and trades, but they thought he really messed this one up. And he told me right to my face, sitting in his office, that listen, we're going to win more championships with you than we would ever want with Noel. And I felt pressure from him because of the fact that he made that deal. So I never wanted to let him down. I wanted to go out there and play the best I could. So with the guys giving me the treatment that they were giving me, all I kept thinking about was that, you know what, they're gonna see that I'm made for this, that I'm ready for this, and I'm not gonna let them down. I'm definitely not gonna let Jerry West down. I'm definitely not gonna let myself down. So I put more pressure on myself than anybody could put on me. But when Jerry made that statement to me, I felt that I was obligated to make sure that he was proven right. And it was great to see sports reporters, a couple of years later saying, you know what, we were wrong. Jerry West knows exactly what he's doing. We'll never question him again. So that made me feel good.
Right. Okay. When you entered the NBA with the Lakers, so you guys play and then you go to the finals immediately, and it doesn't turn out. Yeah, it doesn't turn out the way that you would want it, that we would want it. I guess
Right.
you and I. These other two are, they're gonna go back in time and be very happy about 1984. There were some crazy things that happened. A bad pass here and there, and just and then it goes out to a game 7 and all of that. But how about the whole Celtics-Lakers rivalry? I mean, it had been going on since the 60s. We know that, but you enter that scenario. What are the guys telling you? What's Jerry West telling you about this? The other more senior players. Do you suddenly hate the Celtics already? Are you conditioned to just not like these guys in green? What was that relationship with the green guys?
Well, I didn't like him. I didn't like him before I got to the Lakers. So I mean, getting to the Lakers just made it that much more. I mean, if you are a big Laker fan, you are going to be a Celtic fan. It's just simple as that. So when I got to the Lakers, I already had a dislike for the Celtics, and then playing them a couple of times in preseason, and then playing them in the regular season, that hatred grew even more fonder because I could see the intensity that both teams have for each other and the hate that we have for each other. So it was, it was a great rivalry. When you look back now, the thing that I tell people now is that, when I was out of the game as far as playing and I got into coaching, the first time I went to Boston to coach against the Celtics when I was with Jersey, Cedric Maxwell did all the interviews of every coach that came into town. And we had a guy named Bobby Marks, who was our PR guy, who came up to me, in the locker room and said, Coach, Cedric Maxwell wants to do an interview with you. And I told Bobby, I said, well, go tell him. I said, hell no. I'm not talking to him. and Bobby started laughing like I was joking. And I wasn't laughing, and he looked at me and said, no, really, Coach. I said, no, really, I'm not talking to him. And I didn't talk to him the first 2 times we went. The next year we had to go back to Boston, and Bobby was like, Coach, please, every coach in the league does this. They talked to Cedric Maxwell on the radio. And I finally told him, all right, I would do it. And I remember Cedric walking in the locker room to interview me, and Cedric was just a happy-go-lucky guy. He was like, hey, what's up, B? And I was looking at him like, yeah, what's up? I had a mean look on my face. I didn't want to really talk to him. And I mean, 10 minutes after the conversation or the interview was over, we were in there laughing and giggling and having a good time. And I realized then that, they were just like us. When I say just like us, I mean, it was all about winning. They didn't care about individual goals. They wanted to win championships, just like we did. They just did it in a different style. So I understood then, the rivalry, and I had a lot more respect for him, just like when I met Danny Ainge, who I hated, tremendously playing against. Met him outside of basketball and talked to him and found out he's a good guy. Larry Bird, same thing. Kevin McHale, when he was coaching Houston and I was coaching, had lost one of their kids, and I went up to him before the game and told him, my condolences with you and the family, Kevin. I feel for you. And he gave me a big hug, and I realized that again, we had a lot in common. And most great teams, when you have that type of rivalry, you end up finding out that you're a whole lot more alike than you think. And that's what I ended up finding out about the Celtics. And, great guys, great team. It made for the great rivalry. I don't think today you'll see any rivalries like that ever again, because these kids today, they all play together on these AAU teams. We didn't play against those guys until we played against them in, regular season and finals. We didn't grow up playing, ball with them. So I think that's why the rivalry was so great between the Lakers and the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You got any Danny Ainge stories, Coach, that you can share with us? Because you were up against each other for years, so I'm sure you got some Danny Ainge stories to share with us.
Well, I got one really good one that Magic, he was involved in this one. So we're playing Boston, and I'm a rookie. And Danny is, guarding me. I'm guarding Danny. And we're both kind of elbowing each other and just going at each other. And Magic tells me, he says, "Baby B, we're going to call this play 52 for you. When you catch it, Danny's going to be trailing you." He said, "Just take one dribble." He said, "Let him catch up to you. He's going to be right on your left side." He said, "I want you to go up to shoot it, but when you go up, put your left elbow out, and you're going to hit him right in the throat." And I said, "Buck," we call him Magic. I said, "Buck, but that's going to be an offensive foul." He said, "No, it won't. Just do it. Just do it, baby. I guarantee you." So I go around the pick. I catch it. I take one dribble. I jump up in there, and I just, bam, hit Danny right under his chin. Shoot it off the glass, make the bucket. I hear the referee blow the whistle. I turn around, the referee goes, "Count it." And Danny Ainge is over there like, "This did to me." He's over there screaming and yelling at the referee. And Magic Johnson, as you guys know how animated he is, "B, I told you they was going to call a foul on the right." So I go up and make a free throw. So Magic, anything you say, my man, I got you. I'm gonna do it. So that was one of my good Danny Ainge stories. I got a good elbow in on him, and I got an aim one and made the free throw.
All right, you have to play Larry Bird on a switch every now and then. So what was it like when you switched on Larry Bird? What was going through your mind when he had the ball?
Just hoping he missed. To be honest with you, Larry Legend was one of the baddest dudes that I've ever seen play the game. But I'll tell you what, he was one of the biggest trash talkers on the basketball court. Mm-hmm. So every time I did switch out on him and I jumped to try to block his shot and he would shoot it, he told me one time, he said, "Scott, you jump high, but not that high." So I mean, he was just one of those guys that suddenly just talked a lot of smack. And he was, Larry was an unbelievable basketball player.
Yeah, really smart. To Sid, I know you have a question, Sid.
Yeah. No, I just want to ask about the fans in Boston, because I also read a lot of stories about how the fire alarm in your hotel would suddenly go on in the middle of the night. Whenever,
oh my God.
Stuff
no
like
hot
that.
water in the locker room.
Your luggage would go missing in the airport.
No AC.
Yeah, they gave us face towels for big towels to go off. I mean, they were terrible. But we would play in Boston, and you would get fire alarms going off at 2 a.m, calling everybody down to the lobby. You get down to the lobby, they say false alarm. You go back upstairs, you get in the bed. 45 minutes later, another fire alarm goes off. You go back down, false alarm. I remember that because the third fire alarm that went off, I said, "Shit, I'm gonna just burn up because I'm not getting back up and going downstairs because I'm not doing this anymore." Then also had fans. They would call your room and they would be nice for like 5 seconds. "Hey, Mr. Scott, how you doing? Hope you guys win tomorrow. Do you have any tickets?" "No, I don't have any tickets." "You're gonna get your ass kicked by the Celtics." Click, and they hang up. I mean, and that was ongoing as well. I mean,
that's crazy.
It was crazy. Like you mentioned, Charlie, they had 4 showers in the locker room. 2 didn't work. The other 2, no hot water. They gave us face towels to dry off with. I mean, they were just terrible. And Pat Riley, being as classy as he is, we used to tell Riles, when they come to LA, do the same thing to them. And Riles was like, no, we're not doing that. So Boston went through every trick in the book. During the finals one year, it was about 107 degrees on the floor. They had nailed the windows shut in the locker room so we couldn't lift them up and get in the air. So they were terrible. They were terrible sportsmen. Their sportsmanship was awful. So Noel and Sid, you guys should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm gonna stop at the home teams. That's all we're apologizing for.
Home teams do that. We know the Philippines has experienced that as well in international competitions when the home team starts doing some home cooking. But that's how basketball is.
Really, but maybe that's where Ray got from, because they were great at it.
Yeah, but you played the Celtics 3 times in the finals. Of course, you were able to get your revenge in '85. Then you beat them again in '87. But are those the most memorable finals series that you played in, the Celtics ones?
For me, it is, yeah. without a doubt. I mean, we went to the finals a number of years, but playing the Celtics was the most memorable, championship series that I can remember. Even the ones we lost, my rookie year when we lost that one, it was such a great series. And Kevin McHale clothesline and Kurt Rampus really changed that series around because all of a sudden we started thinking about trying to get them back instead of playing the game of basketball, and they just kept playing. And then the next year beating them, and then like you said, beating them again in '87. Those three series are three series that I'll never forget because I think both teams are two of the greatest teams that ever played a game. If you look at the Celtics, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, DJ, Larry Bird, Danny Ainge. I mean, you got three Hall of Famers, on that team. You look at our team with Kareem and Magic, James, and myself and AC Green. I mean, it's just Hall of Famers all over the place. So I think just going back is the most fond memories I have of playing in those series was against the Celtics.
I have to ask you, who's your favorite? Who's your favorite Boston Celtic? And when I say favorite, I mean, who did you hate the most?
Well, I hated Danny the most, but my favorite was Larry. Because I just never seen a white boy that could play like that and talk trash like a black guy. He was just unbelievable. And it's funny because if you go to the barbershops here in Inglewood or in LA, and you talk about basketball, Larry Bird's name come up, and all the brothers in the barbershop will say, "Man, that white boy is bad." And Larry Bird was a bad dude. He was just a hell of a basketball player. So he was my favorite Celtic to watch, especially when we wasn't playing against him. But obviously, I hated Danny Ainge the most.
Obviously.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question I asked AC Green when he was here, Coach Byron. Talk about the Ralph Sampson shot that took you out. This is supposed to be your year. Ralph Sampson took you out. So talk about that.
Volleyball.
Yeah, that was a hard series, because we were trying to get back to the finals to try to go back to back that year, and I really think we took the Houston Rockets for granted. We just thought that they were just going to lay down and just, I guess, give us the win or give us the series, and they came to play. They split in LA, and then they went to Houston and beat us both times in Houston, and then we decided Game 4, that we better get serious. And they end up, winning that. And then the Ralph Sampson shot, that was, to me, that was kind of fitting, because the way we played, the way they played that whole series, it was fitting that we would lose that way to that team. I don't think to this day they were a better basketball team than us. But at that point, I don't think we were hungry anymore. We had won the championship, and we were looking forward to getting back. But I think we lost a little bit of that hunger to get back there. And we got what we deserved.
Yeah. Well, so we're here, guys. Everyone, we're talking to Coach Byron Scott about his famed Laker career right now. We're halfway through the show. We'd like to remind everyone that we're part of the Globally Ballin Network, and the Globally Ballin Network has a show called Who the Heck Are We? Their latest episode, 72, with Rico Meyerhofer, former PBA Rookie of the Year 2010. So catch that latest episode. It's online right now. Globally Ballin Network. Watch the shows, read the articles and the video projects. Watch them all the shows. GloballyBallin.com is the website. And the Eternity of Basketball on YouTube and Spotify. Please follow all our episodes. Watch them. Listen to them anytime, anywhere. And then the most popular episodes on Spotify, Usapan Smoke and Joe. And then Atoy Ko, Pido Horenzo, Jojo Lastimosa, Freddy Hubalde. Yan ang mga top 5 episodes for that. And then subscribe to our channel, the Globally Ballin YouTube channel, for all the past episodes of Eternity of Basketball. And check out Globally Ballin Southeast Asia on Facebook for snippets of all the shows on the Globally Ballin Network. We're back here in episode 105 with Coach Byron Scott. And, Coach Byron, what a famed NBA career you had. But, your career goes on much longer. After that, there was a coaching, a long coaching career as well. You got into broadcasting. You're doing so many things right now. But, Sid prepared a bunch of photos that we're going to show. Okay, so let's go down memory lane as we look at these photos and let's talk about whatever you remember, whatever you want to share. Like this one, look at this. This is a young Byron Scott hitting a jumper, and you're wearing number 11 right there, which is, I'm not used to that. I like the number 4 behind you.
I thought it was Isaiah.
Number 11. Yeah, it looks like Isaiah.
No, Isaiah didn't jump that high. So
what do you remember from this?
I wore number 11 from elementary school to college because of Bob McAdoo. I was a big Bob McAdoo fan. So
Wow, okay.
when I get to the Lakers, Bob McAdoo was on the team with number 11. That's why I switched to number 4. I remember the shot because this is one of my patent jump shots at Arizona State, at our UA Center. Rookie year, just showing my hops and my leaping ability, just getting up and over the young man. And, hopefully, I can't remember if I made it or not, but I remember the shot.
You probably made it.
Yeah.
Once you got up like that, you probably made it. Yeah, you probably did. And they love the shorts.
Yeah.
Somebody commented, "Look at the shorts."
Yeah, can I just say that looks like Bob McAdoo? That looks like a Bob McAdoo jump shot, except that it's prettier.
Oh yeah.
Can I say
You
that?
gotta be higher up. You gotta be higher up. Bob McAdoo's like from behind the head, right?
Yeah.
Mine's a lot prettier than Doodoo's, and that's what we used to call Bob McAdoo, Doodoo. And but Doodoo was a great guy. I loved him when I played with the Lakers. And I told him at the end of the year that I used to wear number 11. I was a big fan. I was a big McAdoo fan. His line back to me wasn't, "Oh, really? Thank you." It was like, "Of course you were." I was a bad mother. You know what? I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, that guy was very confident.
Well, I'm sure you're thrilled. Bob McAdoo finally got his due and he was named to the top 75. I felt he belonged there from the start.
Absolutely. He was one of the greatest centers back in his heyday. Everybody had trouble guarding Bob McAdoo that played center position in the NBA at that time, because in the NBA at that time, you didn't leave the paint if you were 7 feet. And McAdoo was 6'11", shooting 20-footers. It was averaging 37 points a game. So, I am so happy for him that he finally got his just due.
I agree.
He could play today the way he played back then. That's what the big guys do now.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. He would fit in perfect with the game today, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's check out the next photo. Who was your closest teammate on the Sun Devils? Was it among the guys that you talked about? Alton, Fat Lever, Kurt Nymphius, all these guys.
Alton Lister was my closest teammate.
Right.
List was a guy that I hung out with the most, and I think to this day List hung out with me because I always had money and he was always needing gas. So he was always trying to get me $10 to put in his gas tank. I think that's why he hung out with me so much. But that was my buddy, and obviously on the floor he set a lot of screens for me. So Alton Lister was my buddy back in the day.
Yeah, I did tell you the other night that his team, the team that he coaches for as an assistant here in the Philippines, just won the championship last week here in the PBA. So he's a champion assistant coach.
Yeah, congratulations.
Okay, well, here's the 87 team with Wes Matthews, who played in the Philippines a couple of years after this.
Yeah.
91.
I still look at this team, and I have that picture, matter of fact, on my wall in my office right there, and I still think that 87 team might be the greatest team that ever played the game of basketball.
I'm just looking at it right now.
Just so many. Excuse me?
No, I'm just looking at it right now. I just forgot how big Mitch Kupchak was.
No, it's not Kupchak. That's Mike Schmick.
I'm sorry.
Mike Schmick.
So no wonder it's Mike Schmick. Yeah,
it's Mike Schmick.
Yeah.
That is Mike Schmick. And I'm going to tell you something. Mike Schmick, if it wasn't for Michael Thompson being the backup center, Mike Schmick would have been – he would have played on a lot of other teams. Very skilled, unbelievable body, and unbelievable athleticism for a 7-footer. He just happened to be put on a team where you had Kareem and Michael Thompson, and he just didn't get the chance to play.
A guy I'd like to talk about on that squad is Kurt Rambis. Tell us about Kurt Rambis, because he was, they called him Clark Kent, not Superman. He had his glasses on. He didn't wear goggles. He wore glasses during the games, and he was a hard worker and all of that. Lost his starting spot to AC Green when AC came in, but he still worked every night, right?
Kurt Rambis was unbelievable. Kurt was a great rebounder, great defender. He brought his hard hat every single night to the game. And the thing that he did better than anybody is he got the ball out of the net to Magic Johnson so we could run our break faster than anybody I've ever seen. The ball never hit the floor. And he took a lot of pride into that. And, a good Kurt Rambis story. We had a practice one day and Rouse kind of split up the team. So I'm against Kurt and I'm chasing, I don't know who it was, off these picks. And Kurt is setting these picks and knocking the crap out of me. And I said, Rambo, quit setting them damn illegal picks. And he didn't say anything. He just looked at me and smiled. So we keep running the play. I run into another pick, and I said, Rambo, you set another pick like that, man, we're going to be fighting. He said, listen, those are the same picks I set for you in the game. And I stopped. I said, okay, you know what? You can keep setting those picks. It's okay. So,
Yep, that frees you up for your jumper. That's right.
Yeah, I was like, he's one of those tough guys, but he was a trooper. He was a great teammate, and just an unbelievable person.
Two great personalities on the. Oh, go ahead, Sid. Go ahead, Sid.
No, I was going to ask, Byron, what was it like playing for Pat Riley? You know, I've also read all these stories about, you know, how controlling he is, how demanding he is in practices, all the mind games he used to play with his players. But yeah, I'd like to hear it from you, from your personal experience.
Yeah, all that stuff you heard is true. I mean, Rouse was he was a taskmaster, man. He made us practice, 2-3 hours a day, full out, going against each other, up and down the floor. We hated practice as much as we loved to play basketball. We couldn't wait to play games because games was easy compared to our practices. We hated the fact that we had a game on Monday and we didn't have another game till Friday. That means we got 3 days of practice, and that means we're gonna be killing each other in practice. But he played games with you as far as your mind. But I remember him telling me, he said, "You're the only one that I can go after, and you don't give me a response." So I would never, inside I'm thinking I'm gonna kill him. I used to tell myself one day I'm gonna see him in the street, and I'm gonna beat the crap out of him. But he could never figure me out. That's what he used to tell me. So I could never figure you out back then. I couldn't know if you were mad at me or not. You just never showed any emotion. You never changed your look. So I told him, no, there was many days where I wanted to beat the shit out you, Rouse. Don't worry. But great coach. One of the greatest coaches I've ever had. One of the greatest coaches in the NBA. And he got the best out of you. That's the one thing I would say about Pat Riley. He pushed you so hard that he got the best out of you. He made everybody on our team a better basketball player, and that's all you can ask from a coach.
Right. And then I'm actually looking at the photo, and I mentioned Wes Matthews played here a couple of years after this. So did Billy Thompson. He played as an import in the PBA as well.
Right.
You got two Philippine PBA players there, right, in that photo. But tell us about Dr. Jerry Buss.
Dexter Shouse is watching, by the way.
Oh, Dexter Shouse is watching. Your friend Dexter Shouse is watching.
Man, Dexter. Yeah, Dexter, man, I'll tell you, me and Dexter had a lot of fun playing the game. He was a prankster too, but Dexter had game, man. I mean, the day he walked at ASU and I got on campus to play, pickup games and everything, I fell in love with Dexter. He was such a great person, and I'm glad you're doing well, D, man.
He was a star over here in the Philippines. Yeah, he was a star here when he played here. I wanted to ask about Dr. Jerry Buss, because everybody talks about Dr. Buss and how he made the Lakers into what they are now, especially during your era and all of that, and until he passed away, and then the legacy is being carried on by his daughter now. But what kind of an owner was he? What kind of relationship did you have with him?
Best owner in sports. I had a great relationship with Dr. Buss. He treated me just like he treated Magic and everybody else, and I think that's the thing that separates him from most owners is his star players to the Wesley Matthews. He treated all alike. Dr. Buss was one of the best people I've ever been around. He was an innovator. He thought about cheerleaders, bringing them into the game.
Laker girls, baby.
Laker girls. He brought all the actors and actresses to the game because he was given, he wanted them to see a show. He was the first person here, especially in LA, to have Prime Ticket, which was another network to see home games.
Perfect.
Jack was obviously one of our greatest fans, but Dr. Buss was one of the most creative owners, one of the greatest minds in all of sports. And a great story about Dr. Buss. I got fired from New Orleans, and Dr. Buss was one of the first guys to call me. And I mean, it probably was 2 hours after I got fired. And he asked me what the hell was going on, what are they doing, what are they thinking? And he said, "So when you coming back home?" I said, "Well, my son's in school, so I can't come back home until my youngest son finishes school." He said, "Well, when school's over and you come back to LA, call me. I want you to come to a game and sit in the box with me." I said, "Okay, Doc." And I go back home 2 weeks later. I call Dr. Buss, go to a game, sitting in the box with him. We're having a great time talking and everything. The next day, it's in the papers that I'm after Phil Jackson's job, because they see me sitting in the box.
Right.
I'm like, man, I just got here because a friend called me, somebody who I respect asked me to come to a game. And so he calls me again a few days later and said, "What are you doing next week? I want you to come to another game, sit down with me again." I said, "Dr. Buss, I said, you know what? Everybody thinks that I'm there trying to steal Phil's job and all that. I said, I said, you don't need that. I don't need that. I said, so I'm going to decline on coming to the game and sitting in the box with you. I'll sit in the stands. And he said, fuck the papers. I don't care what they say. I want you to sit in the box with me. I said, no, Doc, I don't think neither one of us need that. Especially me. I'm not trying to steal anybody's job. I'm just here trying to enjoy, the purple and gold. But he was truly one of the greatest people I've ever been around, and one of the most giving as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
You had to love the high socks and the short shorts in this photo and the shades.
Yeah.
You had a bunch of those kinds of photos. What, you had the one on the boat when you guys were supposed to be fishing or something.
Yeah.
So those are some great photos from the Showtime era. Of course, Jack is the face of the Lakers as far as the fans are concerned. But of course, you had Diane Cannon, Andy Garcia, Sean Penn, Penny Marshall. You name it, they were all there, and they'd be shown on TV all the time. So must have been really great to be around all these people, and meeting all of your favorite Hollywood stars as well.
Oh, it was fantastic. Even to this day, I go to the games. The last game I went to their final preseason game. I went to a regular season game. I went to the preseason game against Golden State and ran into Diane and gave her a big hug. And then I saw Andy as well, and me and him talked. And Andy's a big golfer, so he gave me his number. He said, "Be call me so we can play some golf together." So those relationships that you just talked about, Charlie, of all the people that used to come to the game, I still see those people and talk to those people, and they're still great, great Laker fans, and they still love the Lakers. And it's fun to still be connected to a lot of them. So, it's a big family. There's no doubt about it. So that's what I love about Laker Nation. It's just
and you guys were as big as stars as they are. I mean, because you guys were celebrities too. You're in Hollywood. You're playing Showtime, so you were like those guys. Jack Nicholson's a star. So is Byron Scott. Same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. Like I said, Denzel and all those guys who come to the games. It was great to see guys that came to watch you do what you do. Because we go to movie theaters and all that stuff to watch them do what they do. But like you said, out here in LA, we're like movie stars as well. So it was pretty cool. It was kind of that give and take, scenario. But it was really, really cool to play in that era. With the guys that I played with and the fans that we had, the fan base that we had, it was unbelievable. Like I said, you don't really get a chance to, sit back and enjoy it while you're in it. That's the one thing, while you're in it, you don't get a chance to enjoy it. But when you're done, you get a chance to kind of reminisce and think about it and see how wonderful it was and what a great time we had. And how many fans we touched as well. So that 80s era was special.
It was. It really was so many great players. So we look at here's the one that you guys are fishing on that boat. And it's just crazy, to see these players all in those different poses. There's one you guys are in the classroom.
What's Rambus doing? What's Rambus doing?
Rambus he's eating a fish.
He's
talking to a fish.
Yeah, Kirk, he's got to be different. He's looking down the mouth of a shark. So they just told us to just do something, so we grabbed, you can see Magic and Kareem, they grabbed the pole, and I'm sitting there with Gary Beatty as we were talking when it was like, all right, we're about to take the picture. I'm just holding something, and we turned and looked at the camera, take a picture, and went back to doing what we was doing. But it was just a lot of fun, just being us and having a good time with each other.
Right. Really glamorous, that team of the 80s. What's the next photo, Cluds? Let's check it out. Let's go through all of that.
Oh,
here you go. There's the Celtics. Greg Kite blocked your shot. No way, man. No way.
He got him.
No. Noel said that went in. I'm gonna tell you that. I remember that one. That went in off the glass, and then I see this on Sports Illustrated. I thought that was pretty cool. Running gun, because we really just kind of ran through them the first two games, and then after that it was a series, obviously, as you guys know. But yeah, that was a great shot, and something that I've signed a ton of those, over the years. People sending them to me, or autograph sessions. I've signed a ton of those, so that's a great memory that I have.
Yeah, because most of the time the Lakers who are on the cover are Kareem and Magic, but you made it on the cover.
Right.
And of course, you got Fred Psycho Roberts is there too.
That's one of the best guys you got.
Right. So Robertson kite.
I want to ask you about the Magic Johnson hook shot that gave you the edge over the Lakers. What was going through your mind when they ran that play after Kareem had missed the free throw?
Oh man, well the play was designed to go into Kareem, and on that inbound play, Magic got it and Kevin McHale switched out on him. So Magic looked into Kareem and really didn't think that he can get a good pass to him, and decided to just take Kevin one-on-one. And I remember when he swung across the lane, because I was at the top of the key, and I'm like, if he don't shoot it, Danny Ainge just kind of sunk down, so I'm gonna have a wide open shot. But when he went up to shoot it, even Parrish tried to come to block it with McHale.
Right.
Kareem was open under the basket too.
He could have dropped it to Kareem, right? Yeah.
He could have dropped it to Kareem. So when he shot it, luckily it went in. But if he would have missed it, I think Kareem would have had offensive rebound. But I think also, the year before that, Magic missed a couple of free throws, had a turnover, and he was determined not to let that happen again. So he took it upon himself to come out with the baby hook. Now, it was the first time a lot of people saw that hook, but Magic used to shoot that every day in shooting games with me and Coop. We would play horse, and I would shoot jump shots from, 4-point range, which I know he couldn't do and Coop couldn't do. So when you missed, Magic was like, all right, hook shot right-handed, hook shot left-handed. And so we all got pretty adapted running hook shots and all that because those things that we practiced every day. He just had never used it in the game. And that was a perfect scenario because, Kevin McHale with them long arms, if he doesn't shoot a hook shot, it probably gets blocked. So it was a perfect shot to shoot at that time. And like I said, he wanted some revenge over what he had done, the year before, and he took it upon himself and he knocked it down.
But let's go on to the next topic. Let's not.
But even then, Larry Bird. Larry Bird almost hit the shot. Remember, he
went in and out.
In and out. So we
got away with one there. Back of the rim.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, well, if you listen to Larry after that press conference, he had hit one shot before that same spot.
Right.
And the great story about that is they're lining up, and Coop and myself and James, we all trying to figure out if he, who's going this way, who's going that way. And Larry stops us and he said, "Hey guys, listen, I'm going over there to the corner. DJ's going to throw the ball into me, and I'm going to catch it and shoot it. There's not a damn thing y'all can do about it." He knocks it down. Right? This is Larry Bird, the shit talker that I'm telling you about. He knocks it down. Then we go down, we miss the free throws, we get it back, Magic hits the hook. They come back out, they're in the same lineup, and Larry says, "Guys, same play." He said, "Same play." And this time he gets to the corner, and James lost contact with him. And if you really look at it, they could have called a foul on James before the ball even was thrown in bounds because he was holding his shirt.
That's
right. And Larry, gets away from him, gets to the corner, and this one was right on line because I'm standing directly on the bench behind him where he catches, and I'm looking at him shoot. I said, "Oh shit, this is in," and it hits the rim and goes up in the air, and we, hands up, walking off the court. And I remember after the game, Larry was talking. He was in the press conference, just shaking his head. He said, "I can't believe I missed it." That's how confident that guy was. I mean, he was such a great shooter, and he loved those moments that he could not believe that he missed that shot.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
That's close.
So let's move on. Let's move on to the next topic. Celtic fans. Come on. What's the next photo, Claude? Let's look at the next photo because we prepared some nice ones. Here you are with the Indiana Pacers.
Second favorite team.
There. You played for Larry Brown. You played with Reggie Miller.
Yeah.
How was that experience with Indiana?
That was great. Because they called me in LA. They came to LA to play the Clippers, and Larry Brown and Donnie Walsh, who's the general manager, called me, and I was still a free agent. I hadn't signed with anybody. I had missed the first week and a half of the regular season, and they asked me to come to the game. And after the game, I met with them. And Larry Brown and Donnie Walsh, said, we really would love to sign you. And Larry Brown said, but I'm going to ask you two questions, and I need you to be able to do these two things for me. If you can do these two things, then we want to get you to Indiana as soon as possible. And I said, okay, coach. And he said, can you be a leader for us? Your experience and your leadership is what we need. I said, absolutely. And he said, and can you come off the bench and score? I said, absolutely. And he looks at Donnie. He said, "Okay, we need to get him a contract. We need to get him in Indiana when we finish this road trip." So I pack up and I go to Indiana, and I had 2 great years there. We get to the Eastern Conference Finals both years. I made a bold prediction when I got off the plane because all these reporters were there when I got off the plane, all the lights, and everything, and they were asking me about why did I choose Indiana, and I said, well, you got Reggie Miller, you got the Davis boys, you got Rick Smith. I said they got a really good team. They just need somebody who can come in and kind of lead them, to win playoff series and get to a finals. And I said I've done that. And they said, get to the finals. They said they've never been out of the first round. I said, oh, we'll be in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. And they said, what? I said, yeah, we'll be in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. And so when we were, all the papers came to me and was like, oh my God, okay, so you're a prophet now. And so what's in store for next year? But I'll wait till next year. But I enjoyed playing with that group of guys. And Larry Brown, who's a Hall of Fame coach, who came to UCLA after I made my decision to go to Arizona State. He got the UCLA job and came to my high school and said, don't count us out, give us a chance. We would still love to recruit you, get you to UCLA. But I had already decided to go to Arizona State. So he told me, listen, we finally got it right. Now we're finally together. So let's make this work. So I had a really good time in Indiana.
How loud was it in Conseco?
It was the
it was still Market Square Arena, right?
Yeah, Market Square Arena back then.
How loud was it in Indiana?
Crazy. Fans there were, it's Hoosier town. They love their basketball. And now we got a team that's a winner. We got a product on the floor that they can really be proud of. And, we had our playoff runs, and the fans out there were just crazy. Great fans. Even to this day, I go to Indiana, those fans treat me good. Fond memories of playing in Indiana.
I have a question about this picture because you're smiling as you shoot over John Starks. What was it like going up against John Starks and all the other guards in that era?
It was great, because it was a physical game then. So John and I would go at it, bumping each other. Him and Reggie would go at it. Derek Harper, who was a hell of a point guard, defensive-minded guard, who would get up in your grill and play you hard as well. You could hand check, you can bump back in those days. So you had to have some strength, when you're playing against some of those guys. So it was a fun time to play. You just didn't get a chance to run around without getting hit. So I enjoyed that, that physicality of the game, the contact that we all created with one another. John Starks is one of my buddies. I play in his golf tournament almost every year, and he's a tremendous person. And obviously he was a hell of a basketball player. So we had some battles. This particular shot, I remember he reached down and hit my arm. So that's why I'm kind of smiling, because I was yelling, I was screaming for the referee to call the foul. And I can't remember if I got it or not, but yeah, we had some battles.
That's right. And one.
Of course.
One.
Yeah.
Go Sid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, go ahead.
No, I just want to backtrack a little bit, Byron. We skipped over a couple of your other 2 championship runs against the Pistons. Yeah. Which team do you hate more, actually, the Celtics or the Pistons?
I still, like I said, the Celtics. That rivalry was the greatest of all times.
Yeah.
The Pistons, the bad boys. Obviously they came along later, and we beat them once they beat us once. But I always say that, the year they beat us, it's kind of an asterisk by it. I got hurt before the series started, got hurt in game 1.
Magic.
So we really never had, with our backcourt being out. So they won that series. But if we were at full strength, and I think we were going for our 3-peat against them that year, if we were at full strength, I think it would have been a different outcome.
Yeah. And Pat Riley would have cashed in on the 3-peat.
Yeah, because he patented that.
Yes.
The question I have, of course, Mr. Scott, is Michael Jordan.
Oh,
that's the question. Michael Jordan. That's the question.
That's the question.
That's it.
He was by far the hardest guy that I ever had to guard. MJ had no weaknesses. The only thing I thought that was probably the weakest part of his game was his outside shooting. So I remember one of the first times we were playing against him. Maybe about the 3rd time or so, Pat Riley was like, okay, we're going to change it. We're going to deny him everywhere on the floor. And at that time, I'm a vet. I'm in my 4th or 5th year, and I'm kind of just standing there shaking my head. And Rouse said, B, you don't agree with that? I said, nah, because Rouse, if we deny him, he's going back door. I mean, he's smart. He knows how to play. If I deny him, he's going to go back door, and somebody's going to be on poster. And he said, well, what would you suggest? I said, I'm going to just let him catch it. I'm going to just try to stay in front of him and force him to shoot jump shots. And after that game was over, he was 6 for 26. So I had some success against him, but then I think the most he ever scored against me was 39. And another story that I tell people a lot of is that we had a rookie named Anthony Peeler, and we're about to play Chicago, and I'm hurt. And Chicago brings their bus down the Forum, and MJ gets off the bus, and he sees me walking out. He said, B. Scott. I said, what's up, MJ? He said, what's going on, man? I heard you're not playing tonight. I said, no, I hurt my ankle. Can't go tonight. He said, who gonna guard me? I said, Anthony Peeler. He said, the rookie, 50.
50.
Heard that story.
Yeah, I said to Anthony Peeler before the game, I said, listen, don't be rough. Don't try to be all rough and tough with this guy. Don't try to be physical, because Anthony Peeler was a physical guy. I said, let him catch it, make him shoot jump shots. I said, if you get physical, he's going to take it personal. And every time MJ scored, he looked at me on the bench. He ended the game with 54. So he was one of those guys that you just didn't want to piss off too much.
That's right. Next photo. Let's look at the next photo, because lots of stories still. Yeah, here's Kobe and Shaq. So you're one of two guys, Coach, that got to play with Kareem and Magic, and then Kobe and Shaq on the other side, right? You and AC Green both got that opportunity.
Yeah.
What were the dynamics at this time when you played with these two in your last season?
Well, at this particular time, Bill Harris was our coach. Kobe was a rookie. He wasn't playing much at all. I was a veteran guy, so I was, coming off the bench playing in his spot mostly. But the relationship that Kobe and I developed was unbelievable. We would sit on the bench together, and he would ask me questions on what was going on out there, and I would tell him how to attack certain things, and just watch how this guy's coming off this pick. If you go over the top, this is what he's going to do. So we would have a running dialogue on the bench the entire game until I would go in. In practice, the same thing. We would take little strolls and around the neighborhood. We went to the beach a couple of times, and we would just talk basketball. He was just a sponge. He was one of those guys that just wanted to learn as much as he could. And it was just a great time for me, because I was a mentor at that time, and I was trying to teach a young person who I saw. And I've said this, in an interview that was circulating around, a while back, that we were sitting down and I was telling people, mark my words, this kid is going to be great. Right. I saw him every day. I saw how hard he worked, and he was so passionate about the game. All he did was eat, sleep, and drink basketball. And he told me he wanted to be one of the greatest of all times. And I told him, the way you work, you keep working like this, you will be. And obviously, that came true. But playing with him and Shaq was just a beast. Shaq was just a beast.
Yeah, talk about Shaq.
Yeah, Shaq was just, he was a freak. He had this unbelievable size and strength, but he also had unbelievable footwork and athleticism. The guy could bring the ball up the floor. The guy was a great passer. His only negative on the basketball court is he couldn't shoot free throws, on a consistent basis. But there was.
Did you try to help him shoot free throws?
I did. Matter of fact, I did, and we were going through some things in practice, and then Dale Harris told me that he's the free throw coach, so don't mess with Shaq anymore. And so I said, okay, Shaq wasn't happy about it, because we had a nice little thing after practice going where we were shooting free throws together, and I was showing him how I shot him and giving him some pointers and things of that nature. But the man was an unbelievable basketball player, and I will say this about the reason that those two broke up and didn't get along at the end is because Kobe was such a workaholic, and Shaq was a guy who was fun-loving, who had seasons over him, had fun. That's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But if he had the work ethic that Kobe had, Shaq would be right now mentioned as one of the greatest of all time. Not just centers, but players. But he's still in that category, without having to do as much as Kobe wanted him to do. But in his own right, Shaq, he worked hard. I mean, the dude was never out of shape when I was there. He came to practice every single day, ready to practice. He was just gifted, and he was just a monster.
Okay, let's check out the next photo. We got to talk about some players that Coach handled during his coaching career. Here's the first one of them, point guard for the Nets, Jason Kidd. Let's talk about Jason Kidd, coach.
Yeah.
I mean, you're coaching one of the best point guards that ever played. I mean, you played with Magic Johnson. Now you're coaching a guy like Jason Kidd, who played very much like Magic Johnson.
Yeah, Jason Kidd was a smaller version of Irving. I mean, he was a triple-double just waiting to happen. Every time he grabbed a rebound, he was a fast break, instantly. And he was fearless. He loved a challenge. So the guards on the other team that were great guards, he wanted to guard them. He would never back down to anybody when it came to that. He was just a great leader. When I was in New Jersey, the thing that I loved about him is when he came on the bus, if his head was shaved, he was ready. He was ready for war. You could tell that he was ready for the battle. And, he would go out there and he'd leave it all on the floor. He wasn't a great shooter, but it's funny because he would hit big shots. Wasn't a great shooter, but when the game was on the line and you put it in his hands, he made big shots. So he was a smaller version of Magic Johnson. He was going to average, close to a triple-double every year, and that's what he did. And he was a winner. That was the one thing about J. Kidd. He was a winner.
Yeah, I have a question about the Jason Kidd. They called him Asen for a while because he didn't have a J. Did you have anything to do with adding the J to his arsenal?
Not really. He just had a jump shot that, some jump shots are fixables and some aren't. His wasn't really fixable. You just went with the flow, and there was going to be some games where he knocked them down on a regular basis, and there was going to be some games that he didn't. But the one thing you knew about him, his game didn't rely on him shooting. He could change the game and have a positive impact on the game without taking a single shot. I remember playing against Phoenix, and his goal was not to shoot the ball at all, but still beat him by 20. And we did that because he ended up with 12, 13 rebounds and 20 assists. I think he took 2 shots that game to try to make a point, of them trading him. But he was the one guy that didn't have to score in order to be, successful. Scoring for him was just a bonus.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And then now he's coaching, and I'm sure you're not surprised that he's coaching. What's the next photos? We have to compare these guys. I know Sid fixed it in a way that this is another guy. This guy is number 3 or number 2? Number 3 all time in assists already now.
Number 3 after trailing only Jason Kidd and John Stockton.
That's right. Yeah. So Chris Paul, you were coach of the year while coaching the New Orleans Hornets back in 2008, and then Chris Paul still around, still doing his thing until now, coach.
Yeah. One of my favorite people of all times. Chris Paul, great family man. His mom and dad, Mr. and Mrs. Paul, are tremendous people. When I first met him, we brought him in to work out, and I walked up to him. His eyes got big, and he gave me the go handshake, and he just looked like he was in awe because, and that's Coach Scott, kind of thing, and we went and worked him out. He had a great workout. And I asked him, after the workout, I said, you don't have any tattoos? He said, no, my mom and dad would kill me if I have a tattoo. He reminded me of Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas was the guy that, baby face assassin is what I used to call him, because he would smile and be all happy, and then the game started, he'd try to rip your heart out. That is Chris Paul to a T. And he just reached another milestone. He is the only player in NBA history to have 20,000 points and 10,000 assists. So the kid has had an unbelievable career. I was hoping last year that they won the championship because I think he deserves it. But I was glad to see him get to the finals, and kind of get that off his back, because that's something that he had been longing for. But he's another guy that just, he will do anything out there on the basketball court to win. He's the ultimate competitor on the basketball court. And just like I said, one of my favorite people of all times.
Yeah. I mean,
hopefully he does get that ring before he retires.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do.
Okay, what's next on the slideshow as we move along? I know this is another guard. Here's another guard that you coached with Cleveland. Kyrie Irving, who has yet to play a game this season. How about this guy, talent-wise, and if you're going to compare him to the other two that we just showed, Jason Kidd and Chris Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I got both of these guys right when I talk about Chris Paul and Kyrie. I told the press both of them would win Rookie of the Year, and they both did. And I've said this about Kyrie. He's the most gifted offensive player at 19 that I've ever seen in my life. He can do anything on a basketball court. His handle is unbelievable. He can finish with either hand. He's a great finisher when he gets to the basket. He puts spin on the ball that I've never seen before with left or right. He can even post up players, which he chooses not to do because he was doing it in our practices a lot. But he's the most gifted offensive player that I've ever seen at 19 years old. And he's an all-star. He will go down if he can get back healthy and get back on the basketball court. He will be a Hall of Famer as well. But he has to get his act together as far as basketball is concerned. He has to be able to play or sustain his playing time instead of these injuries that he's been getting over the last 4 or 5 years. But talent-wise, he's probably more talented than the other two that we just talked about in Chris Paul and Jason Kidd.
I might agree. Yeah, because this guy's got all package. Yeah, he just needs to
Oh,
get on the
he's
floor. He's not playing. He's not playing. Okay, but I like the way you're smiling at him in this picture. You're like, yeah, I got me a good player right here. Yeah. What's the next photo, Claude?
Oh, that's here.
This is here.
That's here. Yeah.
You're at the Philippine Arena.
Yeah.
Coach B.
That's huge.
Yes, that's Christmas time.
Yeah, you joined
Christmas
the panel of
Day.
the Christmas Day game.
Yeah, Christmas Day game.
Yeah, Christmas Day game. And, my wife and I were in the Philippines, and we had a great time. We went to Boracay first. We went to a wedding in Boracay, so we spent a week in Boracay, and then we went to Manila and spent a week there. And I was amazed that my wife had been telling me, for years how big the Lakers are in the Philippines and how many fans we have there. And I didn't know that until we got there. And actually, the second or third day of leaving the hotel, there's a line of people and kids wanting autographs with my card. I was shocked. But this was a great day, just to go to the game, to enjoy the game. And the fans, if I remember correctly, it was like 20 or 30,000 fans on Christmas Day at this game. And I was shocked that they had so many fans. And some of the Filipino people were telling me that they were disappointed that it was not enough fans. This was a good day. It was the first time I've been in the Philippines, and I really enjoyed it. And the wife and I will be back in 2022, that's for sure, as long as everything is continuing.
Yeah,
that's great.
Well, just to let you know, Coach. Yeah, just to let you know, Coach Byron, I was the PA announcer of that game, and I think I announced your name in this game.
Yeah, he was the one. He was the guy telling everyone that you were there. You're in this photo. You're with two legends, Quinito Henson and Seb Sarmenta, and then the other guy's Dominic Wu. He's not a legend yet, but so these are the guys. All our friends. We work with these three guys when we do the game. So it was great. You also went to the San Juan Arena to watch a game. That's where I met you that same year.
Yes.
And we had a photo as well at halftime. Yeah. So yeah, you watched a couple of games of the PBA and but that's a huge ass venue, so it's hard to fill. That's 50,000 people. It's hard to fill up.
That's where you performed.
Exactly.
That's
why I was surprised that they were disappointed in all the fans that were there. But it was great to see how the fans support the PBA, and it was great to watch the game. So it was a lot of fun.
And I think we have one last photo on the slideshow. Let's show it already. Coach, I know you have this new podcast of your own. It's called Off the Dribble. Lots of stuff that you're doing. You've been really busy. Of course, your first few guests here are the usual guys. You got James Worthy. You got Michael Cooper. I think you had Cap on the show as well. Lately, you've had Marcus Allen, who's a football player. If you guys don't know, Oakland Raiders. So he was on the show. You had Jeffrey Osborne, right? I mean, your last guest, Jeffrey Osborne. And I know I saw a video back in the 80s, late 80s. I saw you singing one of Jeffrey Osborne's songs, the Woo song. You were singing it because I know Byron Scott can sing. Okay, he's got a great voice, Coach Byron. So you were singing one of Jeffrey Osborne's songs. So I was going to ask you about that, and suddenly he's on your podcast. I was laughing. I was going to ask him that, then suddenly you're there. But tell us about this podcast and what your plans are moving forward for that.
Well, like you said, it's called Off the Dribble. We've had 5 episodes so far, so we just started, but it's doing well. We're getting a lot of views. So all my Filipino fans, please tune in. It's on YouTube as well, and pretty much anywhere that you can get podcasts, we're on as well. But Jeffrey Osborne is one of our latest guests. But the one thing I wanted to do, guys, is have a podcast with people that I know and respect, and not always about sports. So I got some entertainment people coming on as well. Obviously sports, but music and entertainment. So Cedric Cedric the Entertainer will be on season 2. Jamie
Wow.
Foxx is on season 2. I'm still hunting down Sugar Ray Leonard. You know,
Sugar Ray Leonard. Wow.
Oh, that's
I
my
got-
man. That's my
I gotta
favorite boxer of all time.
I got to get Pacquiao on this here on one of these days as well. But you know what? I'm having a lot of fun doing it because, as you guys know, it's not an interview; it's a conversation, and I'm having a conversation with guys that I have respect for. But a lot of the guys that I'm having conversations with, you know, besides my old teammates, are guys that I've known for years, but we've really never sit down and had conversations. You know, so it's been a lot of fun for me. And like I said, you know, having James kick it off, and then Kareem, and then Coop and AC Green, Magic will be on this on season 2. You know, it's just been a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it like this, but you know, getting to know some of the guys that I've known over the years. And we talked about Diane Cannon and Andy Garcia, and I want to do you know, just other women. I got Vivica Fox, who's an actress that's coming on as well.
Yeah.
So. I want to get women, men, just all different, you know, all different genres on, and just have conversation and have fun and get some of the backstories that a lot of people wouldn't know or hear about because of the relationships I have with most of these guys. Obviously, we've shared some things that are not public that I would like to bring to light. So yeah, I'm gonna continue to do it, and I appreciate you guys kind of plugging it for me as well. That's nice of you.
Why don't you get Cedric Mack
Our pleasure.
and Danny Ainge on your show as well?
Get who?
The Celtics, Cedric Maxwell and Danny Ainge. Why don't you get them?
You know what? I talk about that. Danny Ainge, get Larry, get Cedric, try to get Kevin.
ML Carr.
I thought that would be great too. ML would be great. As you can see, we got you know the picture with me and James. We had a glass of wine while we were doing the show, having a good time. And Coop had a glass of wine with me, and Coop. Yeah, we just had a good time, but it would be great to get some of the Celtics, and we talked about that about 2 or 3 weeks ago when we finished up season 1. You know, trying to get some Celtics for season 2 or season 3. And I said, listen, we just got to hunt them down, but man, that would be a lot of fun to talk to them about the rivalry and get their perspective from their point of view as well, because I think it would be a good conversation.
You get the Chief on it. It'll be a funny episode, right? Huh? You get Robert Parrish on. It's going to be a funny episode.
I'll tell you what, the Chief was fantastic. We played in the Celtics one year. The Chief was at the free throw line, and you guys know the stoic look of Robert Parrish. Never smiles. And I said, Chief, $100, you don't make both of them. And he looked over at me like that, and he said, bet. And so he makes the first one, misses the second one. We continue to play the game. I forgot all about it. You know, we go in the locker room after the game. A ball boy comes over and says, Mr. Scott, Chief told me to get this to you. It was a $100 bill. So he didn't forget the bet. You know, I'm sure if he would have made them both, he would send the ball boy over and said, tell Byron Scott I want my money. So he was a man of his word. The Chief,
he was.
I love it. Chief.
That's great. Yeah, it's great to see you. James Worthy. Like I said, we haven't even talked about him. So many other personalities. Reggie Miller, you played with. You played that season in Vancouver. I know they're coming up with some sort of a documentary or a movie about the Vancouver Grizzlies that you're going to be a part of as well.
Yeah,
you are a part of that.
Yeah, I spent a few hours with them this morning talking about the inaugural season and what I remembered about it, and the city of Vancouver, which is a beautiful city. Love that city. Had a lot of fun there, you know, the year that I was there. Obviously, expansion team, you're not going to do well or too well, you know, and you're trying to get a bunch of guys together, and, you know, guys are going so many different directions. It's hard to get any continuity and any type of relationships with the guys, because we had our veteran guys, and then you had a bunch of young guys, and the young guys were just, you know, thinking about partying and not basketball, and the older guys are thinking about basketball. So we bumped heads a lot, you know, in the locker room, and that's one of the reasons I think we could have been more successful. Obviously, if everybody's on the same page, but it wasn't. But that's you know, that's what expansion teams do. You know, you get a bunch of guys in there, you try to figure out the 4, 5, 6, or 7 that you're going to keep, and then the other ones you're going to try to, you know, fill in with other people. So it was a tough year because I had never experienced losing, you know, so that was tough for me. But it also taught me a lot about myself, and also getting ready to go into the coaching ranks on how to deal with losing as well. So it was a great experience in the city. Like I said, it was fantastic, and they opened their arms to us as basketball players, and the organization was good as well. So I had a good time in Vancouver.
Well, we've had a great time telling stories with Coach Byron Scott. But before we go to our regular segments, before we end, just one question, I guess, each, from you guys before we let Coach Byron Scott go. Noel, yeah, I
Yeah.
know you have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know about. I just wanted to ask you about Kobe Bryant's last game when he went off for 60. You never took him out of the floor, and that was for me one of the most memorable games. I'm a Celtics fan, but I gave mad respect to Kobe after that game. Talk about that game.
You know what? That game was a very emotional game for me. Because of our 20-year relationship that we had. Uh, the first half, I took him out for about 6 minutes. The second half, he was rolling so good that I told him, you're not coming out playing you the rest of the game. And there was a point in time with about 4 or 5 minutes left in that game where he was exhausted. I looked at him on the bench and he was just flat out exhausted. But his just sure will, his sure will to just go out there and win and give it all he got, I think allowed him to get through that game. But I think we saw something in Kobe that last game that we'll never see in our lifetime again. A guy at 37, 38 years old, retiring after 20 years in the NBA, and he scores 60. That is perfect for here in LA because that's Hollywood. That's what Hollywood stories are all made of. And I'm sure one day somebody's going to do a movie on Kobe. But for me, that was a defining moment in our relationship over a 20-year span. To kind of see it come full circle and to see him go out the way that he went out, I couldn't wish nothing better for him.
When you learned about Kobe's passing, what went through your mind initially?
Well, grief obviously is the first thing, but I think the first thing, before the grief was disbelief. I just didn't want to believe it. My wife was in the bathroom getting dressed, and she just started screaming, "Oh my God!" And we were about to go to church, and she's the one that told me that she had just read on TMZ that Kobe passed away in a helicopter accident, and I was just stunned. I was shocked. I started turning on every channel to see, and then my phone started ringing off the hook. And every time I answered, they were asking me if it's true, and I said I have no idea. I'll call you later and let you know. And mostly he was a friend of mine, and we were on our way to church and found out that it was true. And I turned right back around and went home, and basically just sit in the house for the next 4 or 5 days. I just couldn't believe that somebody who I loved, somebody who I cherished, somebody who I had the ultimate respect for as a basketball player and as a person, was gone just that quickly. So
Yeah.
I mean, just like so many, I even seen the murals that they did in the Philippines, for Kobe. I was hurting just like, probably the whole world, and maybe a little bit more because of the personal relationship that I have with him.
Yeah, we still all can't believe that he's gone, but yeah, that's really anyway. Sid, so you have something for Coach before we wrap up?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to ask very quickly, what do you think of the current state of the NBA? The way where the game is headed in the 2020s. Are there things you like about the style of play now, or the things you dislike?
Well, I mean, I get criticized for being old school. The game has always been played inside out instead of outside in. But the game of basketball right now is still a beautiful game. You still got athletes that are doing things that are just amazing. 7 foot. You got Kevin Durant at 6'11". He would be a power forward nowadays. 6'11". You wouldn't be allowed to dribble the ball. He dribbled the ball like he's a 2 guard or a 1 guard. Gets to his spots and he raises up and he's got a beautiful jump shot. He's just one of the most unstoppable players. Giannis, this guy can get to the basket on anybody, and if he shoots 40-something% from the field, when he from the free throw line out, that's a plus. Steph Curry, I would pay to see Steph Curry play because he is, when he crosses half court, you got to guard him. And not only can he shoot the ball, he can catch it and he come off pin downs and picks and catch and shoot and create his own shot. So I think for me, there's still a lot of beauty to the game of basketball. I think the big man is almost irrelevant now if you can't shoot jump shots, if you can't make a three-pointer. If you can make a three-pointer and you can post up, you just become that much more valuable. So I don't watch a lot of NBA basketball game during the regular season. I watch a lot of it during the playoffs because I think that's when these guys really start to play, most of the time. But yeah, I love the fact that it's still more of an up-paced game and the scoring is a lot higher than it used to be. I don't like the fact that you got 7-footers out there shooting 3-pointers when some of them can't make them, but they're doing it just to try to keep the defense honest. But I'm a basketball purist and I love the game. So the game goes in cycle. This is a different the revolution of the game of basketball is going to change every 10 years or so. So I think we all have to get used to it. And what we're watching right now is kind of the norm.
Yeah.
Bill Laimbeer shot jumpers too, right?
Yeah, Bill Laimbeer. We're going to talk about Bill Laimbeer now. He's talking about Bill Laimbeer shooting jumpers back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, he shot jumpers because he couldn't post up. That was a different story.
That's right.
You got to guest him on your podcast.
Yeah,
Bill would be fun too. Matter of fact, Isaiah Thomas and I have been going back and forth. I'm trying to get him on as well. So
he's another colorful guy. One of my favorites too. We didn't even talk about Joe Dumars. Just too many topics to cover with Coach Scott. I don't know. Maybe we can invite you back again in the future and cover all of that. But it's been great today. We have some segments that we do on a regular basis, Coach. Before we let you go, there's a segment on our show called X's or O's. It's brought to us by Hinalaban Coffee and Adlai. Thank you, Hinalaban, for supporting our show. It's I give you some choices, Coach, and you just tell me which one you choose without having to explain why. Okay, so let's go through a list.
Okay.
Just tell me which you choose. Number 1, Alton Lister or Kurt Nymphius?
Alton Lister.
Alton Lister. Okay. Lots of Kurt Nymphius stories. I know, crazy ones. How about this? Antonio or Dale Davis?
Oh wow, that's a good one. Antonio.
Okay. How about this? Vlade Divac or Rick Smits?
That's a real good one. Wow.
Yeah, that's a tough one, really.
That's a tough one. I'm gonna be a little biased. I'm gonna go with my boy Vlade Divac.
Vlade. Okay, Vlade. This one, Randy Fund or Bill Burtka?
Bill Burtka. Without a doubt.
Okay. Without a doubt. Okay. Jerry West or Donnie Walsh?
Jerry West.
Yeah.
Jerry West. Okay.
Gotta be the logo.
Yeah. Magic and Kareem or Shaq and Kobe?
Magic and Kareem.
Magic and Kareem, of course. Okay. Jason Kidd or Chris Paul?
Wow. That's another good. Chris Paul.
Okay. Okay, finals opponents. Phil Jackson or Greg Popovich?
Woo! I'm gonna go with Pop. Greg Popovich.
Pop.
I'm gonna go with
Pop. Okay. Celtics or Pistons?
You go Celtics.
Okay. Kyrie Irving, Stephon Marbury, or Baron Davis?
Whoa, that's another good one.
I thought long and hard about all of these choices.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one, Charlie. I'm gonna go with Baron Davis.
Davis. Okay.
You're the bigger.
I won't ask why. We don't have to explain. So I don't know. No explanation. 1985 championship or 1987 championship?
1985.
85. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you'd say that. Coaching
84.
or playing? 84 is not counted. 84 is
Shut
not
up,
counted.
Sid.
Huh? You Celtic fans, keep quiet. Playing over coaching. Yeah, most of you say that. Most of the players who coach say Isaiah Thomas or John Stockton.
Whoa, that's another good one. Wow. God, that's a tough one. I'm gonna go Isaiah Thomas.
Okay, Isaiah Thomas. How about this? Dumars or Moncrief?
Woo,
That's a tough
Sidney
one.
Moncrief and Joe Dumars. That's a good one too.
That's a good one.
Oh man. That's a real good one. I'm gonna go with Sidney Moncrief though. That's a good one.
I would go there too.
Yeah.
John Sally or Dennis Rodman?
I'm gonna go with the worm. I'm gonna go with Johnson.
The worm over the spider. Okay, the
worm.
worm over the spider. Okay, next, Adrian Dantley or Mark Aguirre?
Another good one. Boy, they
Dantley
play
didn't
so
get
much
a ring.
alike.
You got to remember, Dantley no ring.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Mark Aguirre.
Okay, Mark Aguirre. Okay, Kevin McHale or Larry Bird?
Mhm.
Oh, Larry Bird.
Larry
Of
Bird.
course.
Okay.
Yeah.
DJ or Danny Ainge?
DJ.
DJ. Nets, Cavs, Hornets, or Lakers?
I got to go purple and gold. You know, I got to go
All right.
Lakers.
Yes, sir. And the last one, not basketball related, Al Pacino or Robert De Niro?
That's a good one too. I'm a big Al Pacino fan. Go Al Pacino.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Al Pacino, Scarface. Thank you so much. That's XSROs for episode 105.
Good one,
It's brought to
Charlie.
us by Hinalaban Coffee and Adlai. Thank you, Hinalaban, for supporting us. Okay, Noel, your turn. Because
All
we
right,
gotta let
Coach
Coach
Byron
know.
Scott, you've had a very long basketball career, 14 years as a player. How does Byron Scott want to be remembered in the sport of basketball?
What's your legacy?
What's your legacy going to be?
Oh, I would like to be remembered as a competitor, a guy who came out there and played hard every single night and played the right way, and a guy who was a sportsman on the basketball court. You know, I wasn't the guy who threw cheap shots and things like that. I played the game, at least in my mind, the right way, and I played with the utmost respect for the game. So sportsmanship is something that's important to me. So I would like to be remembered as a fierce competitor, but a guy who was a gentleman to the game and who played with great sportsmanship.
All right. Amazing.
Well, I'm a
Okay.
Celtics fan. I agree.
Go, Sid. Your turn.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. My question, Byron, is who are your 5 favorite teammates of all time? It can be from any team, from high school, up to your playing career. in
My
NBA.
favorite teammates of all time: Magic Johnson, Michael Cooper, Reggie Miller, James Worthy. And see, it's hard because I got to leave out 3 or 4 of the guys that I love too. But
Right.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
All
4
right.
Lakers and 1 Pacer.
Four
Lakers
Lakers and a Pacer. That's
All
right,
in the
that's
top
right.
75, except for Coop.
That's right. That's right. And then he's being considered for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Okay, Coach, before we let you go, I mean, you had a long career all the way from Morningside to your last year, your second stint with the Lakers. Then you coached for several years as well. Is there anyone you'd like to thank or just give some appreciation to? You can do that now. Someone you'd like to greet, acknowledge.
Thank for
Oh
your
my
journey.
God. I would like to thank Coach Jim Newman. Jim Newman recruited me to Arizona State. God rest his soul, who stayed on me to be a better player when I was at ASU. Then I would love to thank Jerry West, the logo, for being what I call my basketball dad. Every decision I made when I got into coaching, I would call the logo, and we would talk about it, and he would give me his advice on if I should take the job or not. And then Dr. Buss, the greatest owner of all times, who was such a friend to me, especially at the low times of my life. When I got fired from a few jobs, he was always there. And then the last person I'm gonna thank is my mom and dad for being just great moms and dad, for raising me and teaching me how to be humble and respectful, and taught me what it means to work for everything that you got. Those people are all the people I would like to thank.
Well, all right, Coach. On that note, we'd like to thank you for coming on An Eternity of Basketball. It's been an honor and a privilege for the 3 of us, 2 Celtic fans and a Laker fan right here. Showtime, baby.
Celtics fans.
Right, sir. 5 championships in the 80s, my friends. So, Thanks so
That's
much, Coach, for joining us for this show. Coach Byron Scott is such a busy guy. He makes appearances. He's at the UCLA game. Sometimes he's at the Lakers game. Suddenly he's talking to Bas Rutten. He's doing some Muay Thai. He goes to Filipino Heritage Night for the Dodgers. And now he has his own podcast, Catch It, guys, Off the Dribble with Byron Scott. So let's support that show as he has supported our show over here. Thank you so much, Coach, for all the stories. And maybe we'll talk to you again soon. You know, it's been great. For us, for me especially, guys, I just need to say, yeah, baby. Okay, so that does it for episode 105. Thank you to all our followers for joining us once again. We'd like to thank the Globally Ballin Network. We'd like to thank Hinulaban for sponsoring X's or O's, and San Miguel Corporation, San Miguel Beer, baby, which supports us, is our partner for this show. I'd like to thank Mrs. Scott as well. Thank you for helping out, for bringing Coach Byron on our show. So maraming salamat sa lahat. Thanks, Coach. And we'll support your show for sure. Episode 105 is in the books. Should have been an all-star in 1988. Coach Byron Scott, thank you for joining us. Our show is done. It's in the books. We say thank you. We'll tell you our next guest as soon as we can. We'll announce it on our Facebook page. Take care, everybody. God bless you all. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Bye, Coach.
you guys.
Pleasure
Appreciate
to have you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.